I don't remember the exact moment when everything fell apart. Maybe it was that quiet morning. I woke up and something felt wrong. The air was heavy. The room felt empty. There was no laughter, no voice calling my name. Just silence. Deep, strange silence. I walked to the kitchen. The coffee cup was still on the table from yesterday. The chair was pushed back, like someone had left in a hurry, but no one came back. Sometimes life breaks in one big moment. Other times it breaks slowly, piece by piece, until you don't recognize your own world anymore. That morning, I looked in the mirror. I saw someone I didn't know. A tired face, sad eyes. A person holding on, but barely. I tried to pretend everything was okay. I got dressed, I went to work. I smiled when people talked to me. I said, "I'm fine," even when my chest was tight and I couldn't breathe. I answered messages with little jokes, but inside, I was falling. Pain doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just sits quietly, like a shadow behind you. There were nights I couldn't sleep. I lay on the bed, eyes wide open, remembering everything I had lost. The words we said, the words we didn't say, the way everything changed so fast. I asked myself, what did I do wrong? Why did this happen? Can I ever feel whole again? The answer never came. Only silence. And tears I hid even from myself. But then, something small happened. One morning, I heard a bird singing outside the window. Just one little bird. A soft, simple sound. And for a moment, I stopped. I listened. And I breathed. The world hadn't ended. The sun still rose. The trees still moved in the wind. And deep inside me, something whispered, "You're still here." That was the beginning. Not of healing, but of choosing to begin. Not all broken things are gone forever. Some things can be rebuilt. Some hearts can find their beat again, and maybe, just maybe, so can I. Part 2. The silence that hurts. The silence was the hardest part. Not the loud arguments. Not the door slamming. Not the goodbyes. But the silence after everything ended. That kind of silence isn't peaceful. It's sharp. It cuts deep. I would sit alone in my room, hearing nothing but the sound of my own breath and the soft ticking of the clock. Even those sounds felt too loud. I tried to fill the space, music, podcasts, television, but the silence always returned. It was inside me. People often say time heals everything, but they don't tell you about the quiet hours, when you're lying in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of a world that doesn't feel like yours anymore. There were days I didn't want to talk to anyone, but there were also days I wanted someone, anyone, to ask me how I really was. I wasn't okay, and that was hard to admit. Sometimes I'd walk through the city just to hear noise, footsteps, horns, conversations I didn't understand. Anything that reminded me life was still happening. But even in the middle of the crowd, I felt like a ghost. Walking, breathing, but empty. That's the thing about healing. It doesn't always feel like progress. Sometimes it feels like nothing, like sitting in silence and hoping tomorrow feels a little lighter. And yet I stayed. I listened to the silence. And slowly I began to hear something else beneath it. Not noise, not distraction, but something like a heartbeat. My own. Still there. Still beating. Still trying. That small sound reminded me, even if I felt broken, I was still alive, and that meant there was still hope. Part 3, The Weight of Pretending. I smiled a lot during that time, to the people at work, to the neighbors, to the cashier at the grocery store, even to myself in the mirror. But the truth? I was exhausted, not from what happened, but from pretending. I was fine. Every "I'm okay" took a little more energy. Every fake laugh added a little more pressure. And every time someone said, "You're so strong," I wanted to scream, "No, I'm just really good at hiding." I didn't want to be seen as broken. I didn't want to make others uncomfortable. So I became a character. The version of me that people expected. Strong, stable, smiling. But at night, when no one was watching, the mask slipped. And I was just me. Tired, lost, heavy. Pretending is heavy. Heavier than sadness. Heavier than grief. It weighs on your chest until even breathing feels like effort. I started avoiding people. Not because I didn't care, but because I couldn't keep pretending. I needed space. Not to be alone forever, but to remember who I was beneath all the layers. And slowly, in the quiet, I began to meet myself again. Not the strong one, not the smiling one, just me. And for the first time in a long while, I let that be enough. Not perfect, not healed, but honest. And that, I realized, was a kind of strength too. Part 4, Nights That Wouldn't End. The nights were the worst. When the world went quiet and the light disappeared, my thoughts grew louder. I would lie in bed, watching shadows move across the ceiling, wishing I could shut off my mind. But it kept going, playing old memories like broken film, rewinding conversations, reliving mistakes, reopening wounds I thought were closed. Some nights I cried without sound, just tears slipping quietly into the pillow. Other nights I just stared, empty, waiting for morning to save me. I checked my phone again and again, hoping for a message that would never come. Not because I expected anything, but because I wanted to feel seen, needed, remembered. There's something cruel about nighttime when you're hurting. Everyone else seems to rest. But you battle your own mind. No distractions, no noise. Just you and your thoughts. I tried everything. Music, podcasts, breathing exercises, even counting backwards from 1,000. Still, the hurt stayed. But one night, something shifted. Not because the pain went away, but because I stopped fighting it. I let myself feel it, not push it aside, not numb it. And strangely, that made the night feel less endless. The pain was still there, but so was I. Breathing, existing, enduring, and slowly, very slowly, I began to believe that maybe, if I could survive the night, I could make it to the morning. Part 5, The Mirror and the Stranger. I stopped recognizing myself. Each morning, I'd look in the mirror and see a stranger staring back. Same eyes, same face. But something was missing. The light, the softness, the sense of who I was. I touched, My face like I was trying to remember. Remember the person I used to be before the break, before the silence, before the sadness moved in. I wondered, is this what grief does? Does it erase you piece by piece until only the shape remains? I tried to fix it, tried to dress better, smile more, eat healthier, but no outfit or habit could bring me back, because healing wasn't about putting makeup over pain. It wasn't about hiding the cracks. It was about facing the reflection honestly, even when it hurt. One evening I sat down and asked myself out loud, who are you now? Not who I used to be, not who I wish I was, just who I was in that moment. I didn't have a perfect answer, but I realized this. Even if I didn't feel like myself, I hadn't disappeared. I was still here, just different, changed, yes, bruised, yes, but still me. And maybe, just maybe, this version, broken and honest, was worth getting to know, too. Part 6, Naming the Pain. For a long time, I didn't know what I was feeling. I just knew it hurt. It wasn't just sadness. It was something deeper, something heavier, like walking with wet clothes in a cold wind. People asked, "What's wrong?" But I didn't know how to answer. I didn't have the words. So I shrugged. I smiled. I changed the subject. But inside, I was screaming. It's strange how we can feel so much, and yet not know how to explain it. The ache behind the eyes, the tightness in the chest, the weight that sits in your stomach and refuses to move. Then one day, I read a sentence. To heal, you must first name what hurts. It stayed with me. I started writing. Not full sentences, just words. Fear, loss, guilt, loneliness, shame. And when I saw them on paper, they stopped being shadows. They became real, and real things can be faced. Naming the pain didn't make it disappear, but it made it feel less powerful, less mysterious, less like a storm I couldn't see. I was no longer lost in a fog. I had a map. A painful one, yes, but it was mine. And step by step, word by word, I began to understand what was inside me. And for the first time, it didn't feel like the pain was in control. I was. Part 7, Letting Myself Be Weak. I used to believe that healing meant being strong all the time, holding it together, smiling through the pain, getting up every day and pretending nothing hurt. But that wasn't strength. That was survival. And it was slowly breaking me from the inside out. One day I couldn't keep it in anymore. I sat on the floor and cried, not quiet tears, but deep, aching sobs that came from a place I didn't even know existed. And you know what? Nothing bad happened. The world didn't fall apart. I didn't fail. I didn't break beyond repair. In fact, something strange happened. I felt lighter, as if the tears had been carrying weight I didn't know I was holding. For the first time, I gave myself permission to feel everything, to not be okay, to fall apart. Because sometimes falling apart is part of healing. Sometimes it's the only way to rebuild. I stopped apologizing for my tears. I stopped hiding my tiredness. I started saying, "I'm not okay today," without shame. And little by little, I began to understand that weakness isn't the opposite of strength. It's part of it. Letting myself be weak didn't make me less. It made me real. It made me human. And in that softness, in that honesty, I found a quiet kind of power. Not loud, not proud, but steady and true. Part 8. Things I never said. There were so many things I wanted to say, but I never did. Maybe I was afraid. Afraid it was too late. Afraid it wouldn't change anything. Afraid it would hurt more. So I held them inside. The words, the questions, the apologies, the pain. They sat in my chest like stones, heavy, unspoken, unresolved. I wanted to ask, "Why did you leave?" I wanted to say, "I miss you. I'm angry. I didn't deserve that. I'm sorry too." But silence became my habit, and over time, I convinced myself that silence was safer. Until one day, I wrote a letter. Not to send, not for anyone else, just for me. And I poured everything out. The anger, the grief, the confusion, the love I didn't know where to put anymore. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't pretty. But it was honest. And it was mine. I cried while writing it. But when I finished, I felt something shift. Not closure, but space. Space where pain had been. Space where healing could begin. There are still things I never said, out loud. And maybe I never will. But now, they're not locked inside. They're not weighing me down. They're part of the story I carry, but they no longer control how I move forward. Part 9. Small steps, quiet victories. Healing didn't come in a big moment. It didn't arrive with music or clarity or some final breakthrough. It came slowly, quietly, in pieces. Like the first time I opened the window and let sunlight touch my skin again. Like the first real laugh that slipped out when I wasn't trying. It came in small choices. Washing the dishes, going for a walk, answering a message, eating something warm. And each time I did, a part of me whispered, "See? You're still trying. You're still here." There were days when getting out of bed felt like a mountain, and when I did it, that was a victory. Even if no one saw it, even if no one clapped, I saw it, and that mattered. I stopped waiting for big milestones to measure progress. Instead, I started celebrating the tiny ones. Choosing tea over nothing. Going outside even for 5 minutes. Saying no when I needed rest. These weren't signs of weakness. They were signs of life, of hope, of returning to myself. I no longer rushed the process. Because healing doesn't live on a schedule. It unfolds in its own time. And if today's win was just breathing deeply, that was enough. Small steps. Quiet victories. They were leading me home. Part 10. The kindness I owed myself. For so long, I gave my kindness to everyone else. I forgave them. I listened to them. I showed up even when I was tired. I gave love even when I had none left for myself. But when it came to me, I was cruel. I blamed myself for everything. I told myself to get over it. I judged my sadness. I rushed my healing. I called myself weak. One day, I caught my reflection again. And instead of judgment, I tried something new. I said, "You've been through a lot, and you're still standing. You deserve kindness too. It felt strange, awkward, even fake at first, but it was a beginning. I started writing to myself like I would write to a friend. I said things like, "You're allowed to rest. You don't have to do everything today. You're enough, right now. You're not broken. You're healing." The more I did it, the softer I became with myself. And the softer I became, the stronger I felt. Kindness didn't mean ignoring the pain. It meant walking through it with gentleness. It meant holding my own hand instead of slapping it away. I began to speak to myself with care, to eat like I mattered, to move like I was worth saving, to rest like I deserved peace, because I did, and I do. And the truth is, we all do. Part 11. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. For a while, I thought healing meant letting go. Letting go of the memories. Letting go of the people. Letting go of the pain. So I tried to forget. I boxed up photos, deleted messages, avoided songs, and places and smells that brought it all back. But the past has a way of whispering, in dreams, in random moments, in quiet mornings, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't erase what happened. Then I realized something. Healing isn't about forgetting. It's about remembering without breaking. It's about being able to say, yes, that happened, and yes, it hurt, but I survived it, and maybe even it taught me something. I stopped fighting the memories. Instead, I let them pass like clouds, some heavy, some light, but all moving. I started honoring what I had been through, not by clinging to it, but by respecting its place in my story. The pain became a page, not the whole book. The scars became reminders, not of weakness, but of strength. I no longer needed to forget in order to move on. I just needed to accept, to make peace with the pieces, to carry them differently, not as weight, but as part of the road that led me here. Part 12. Setting Boundaries with Love. For a long time, I said yes to everything. Yes to people who drained me. Yes to situations that hurt me. Yes, because I didn't want to disappoint anyone. But every yes to them was a quiet no to myself. I was tired, overwhelmed, burnt out. And yet, I kept giving, thinking that love meant self-sacrifice. But then I learned, real love includes boundaries. Real healing requires them. It wasn't easy. The first few times I said, "I can't right now," or "that doesn't feel right for me," I felt guilty. Like I was letting people down. Like I was being selfish. But slowly I began to see the difference between selfishness and self-respect. I started protecting my energy, not as a wall, but as a gentle gate. I made space only for what felt kind, what felt honest, what helped me grow. Some people didn't understand. Some walked away. And yes, that hurt. But the ones who stayed, the ones who listened, they loved me better, more clearly, more deeply. Setting boundaries didn't push people away. It pulled the right ones closer, and most importantly, it brought me closer to myself. I wasn't saying no to others to be cruel. I was saying yes to my own peace, my own healing, my own life. and that was something I didn't need to apologize for anymore. Part 13. Forgiveness and letting go. I used to think forgiveness was a gift you gave to someone else, a way to make peace, a way to move on. But I've learned forgiveness is something you give yourself, not to excuse what happened, not to pretend it didn't hurt, but to stop carrying it every single day. I was angry at the people who hurt me, at the choices they made, at the way they left without looking back. But I was also angry at myself for not seeing the signs, for staying too long, for not healing fast enough. That anger lived in my body. It sat in my shoulders, in my stomach, in my chest. It didn't protect me. It just kept me stuck. So I started the slow, quiet work of forgiveness. Not all at once, not completely, but little by little. I whispered things like, I release this. I don't need to carry this anymore. I choose peace. And then, the hardest part of all, I forgave myself. For all the times I didn't know better. For all the mistakes I made trying to survive. For being human. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's freeing. It's loosening the grip of the past, so your hands can hold something new. And when I let go, really let go, I didn't feel empty. I felt light. And in that lightness, there was room again. For hope. For joy. For me. Part 14, Finding Meaning. Again. There was a time when everything felt pointless. Waking up, making the bed, going to work. The days blurred together, and I stopped asking why. The spark I once had, the one that made life feel alive, was gone. And I didn't know how to get it back. I wasn't looking for something big. Not fame, not money, just a reason. Something to look forward to, something to care about. At first, I tried to force it. Set goals, made lists, pushed myself to find purpose. But meaning doesn't come on demand. It arrives in quiet moments, unexpected ones, like planting something small and watching it grow. Like helping someone without expecting anything back. Like laughing at something silly and realizing you haven't laughed like that in weeks. Meaning didn't return all at once. It showed up in fragments, in whispers, in warmth. I found it in a book that made me cry, in a walk that cleared my mind, in creating something, anything, just because it felt good. And slowly, the world began to feel less empty. I stopped asking, what's the point? And started asking, what brings peace today? Because maybe life isn't about one big purpose. Maybe it's about little moments strung together, moments that matter to you. And when you start noticing them, you begin to feel alive again, not in a loud, dramatic way, but in the most honest way possible. Like your heart is quietly saying, we're still here, let's keep going. Part 15. I am still here. I've walked through the silence, through the tears, through the nights that wouldn't end. I've felt the weight of pretending. I've carried words I never spoke. I've broken, and I've rebuilt, piece by piece. Day by day, I've let go of people who couldn't stay, forgiven things I never thought I would, held myself through storms no one else saw, And now when I look in the mirror, I still see the scars. But I also see someone who stayed, someone who didn't give up, someone who showed up again and again, even when it hurt. I am not the same as I was, but I am still here. And that means something. It means I've grown. It means I've softened. It means I've made peace with the pieces. Not every day is light. Not every step is strong. But I keep walking. Because healing isn't a finish line. It's a way of living. It's choosing to begin again, even when you're tired. It's loving yourself, even when you don't feel lovable. It's showing up for your life, even when it feels heavy. And I'm doing it, in my own time, in my own way. With every breath, with every sunrise, with every quiet moment of courage, I remind myself I am still here, and that is enough.